Okay, let's look at the humble text block and what we can do with it. So adding text on a page, add block, text. Let's just jump into this because it's got just a nice clean background on it. So you can then do a bunch of different things with this text block. For example, we happen to have these two separated, but we could just pull them together. So let me just delete that one. And then let's just do this. Now you've got a bunch of different controls available to you. First off is then some Squarespace AI. So it could go and write you some text. Let's see what it comes up with. Cool. So you could do that sort of thing. If you want to add some placeholder content in, you could also write me some Laurie Ipsum and do this. So you could then do that and press stop if you want to just to not let it carry on. So you've got that available to you. Then let's click back into this and click edit. Then you can change the text sizes. So you can then also do this with a keyboard shortcut. So for example, if I then click and highlight this, then with my keyboard shortcuts, so I'm doing command options and then I'm pressing different numbers on my keyboard. A similar method is true for a Windows PC, but if you start at 6, that's header 1, and then you work your way down the numbers, so 5, header 2, 4, etc., then I've got to 1 and I'm at paragraph 2. So it's a little bit counterintuitive in terms of the numbers, but if you just work your way down the keyboard, then that's where you go. Then you can come to 0, which is paragraph 3. So it's just a quick shortcut for how to do that. Then, or you could obviously just click and do this. Then some of the others are slightly more intuitive. So bold, italics, then changing the color. So let's say I want to highlight this text. I can either change the color to one of my custom ones, or I could make it something completely custom. So there we go. We've got that. Now this one is scaling the text. Now this works really nicely if you have some short text itself. So for example, if I just had the word introduction, and I might have that in that particular size, but I then want to press this. What this will do is then scale the text to the size of my box. So I could make it super massive and then do something like this. But the reason that we want to just use a short amount of text is because then if I flip it into mobile and I might have a longer amount of text, then it often gets really small in here. So let's see what that does if I just use this text instead. So let's use that text. Let's go even further. So although I've got the scale text, on here it's looking really small. And on here, it's looking okay, but it's not quite doing the punch that I was after. So then if we just pop this back here, that's looking much more punchy. And then back on mobile, again, that's looking more punchy. So just use it mindfully. Let's just take that out for the time being. So that's scaling text. Then we can do some underlines. So make sure you select your text first that you want to use the highlighting tool for. Then you've got all sorts of different and creative things inside of here. For example, if you wanted to highlight, then I can change the color and I could do something like this, or again, use a custom color. So we could something like that. Change the thickness. So it's quite subtle, but you can see that the height of that was just adjusting. Then we could, so this often gets used if you were to use some of the different types here. So let's just do that. And I can then make the ends of these rounded. So let's just jump this back to here. So the ends of that has been softened. Then bringing to the front is all about layering. Then animation. So this could just draw the line in. Should I want to? I've got a bunch of different options here. How quickly I want it to be, the animation to happen, and the direction. So this was going from left to, whereas I could go in the opposite way. And then also the thickness of the line as well. So totally up to you as to how you go and do that, but that's that one. Then creating a link. So highlight the piece of text that you're after, click this, and then click the link itself. So we've got that. Knowing that if you are using the underline, then actually this is not necessarily the best to have in place. So we've got that, but also just knowing that you want to highlight the whole, just like the single piece of text. So the fact I have got the space also highlighted, let me just show you a quick tip. So if I press space, then I've at least created a gap between, let's just drag this over. I've created an extra gap. And then if I just highlight that, then I can click delete. So I've got that. The alternative is you could click into the text and then you could have kept writing your text in here, etc. And then be able to delete off the end. So you could do that. So that's then the link, then the alignment, then being able to clear the formatting. So let's say you've copied some text in from a third-party tool like Microsoft Word or something equivalent. Sometimes it likes to bring in hidden values or changing the text size or things like that. And sometimes it's good to then just clear the formatting and let the Squarespace editor handle that, mostly so it can handle the text size in a responsive way. Then, because I've got this slightly smaller, it's then hiding a few of these things. So clicking that 3 dots shows this. We've got the different bullet points. If you did want to have bullet points and not want to then do something like that, you can just do a little pipe or a line dash, should I say, and then keep going down here. But then if you want to keep going further, you can just press tab as well, and then press tab, then just indents it. And then you could just indent it again. So another tab gets it going like that. So that's that one. Then you could do things like strike through. You could then indent and outdent text. This is the same again in terms of clearing the formatting. And obviously with all of the blocks, you can just hit delete. So you've got that available too. Oh, and then quote marks. So you've got that. Then just by not editing it, you can then change the background. So you could put a background on this and do something like this, changing the color, changing the corner radius or border radius. So you could put it with like curvy corners around it. It's quite subtle, but you can see that's there. Just darken that up so it looks a bit more obvious. So there we go. You've got that in there. And let's single click back into that. Let's just dial that back a bit. Or you could then just go on the individual corners. So then I can target top, left, top, etc., change the amount of padding that I have available on there and be able to get those going should you want to. So you've got that. Then adjusting the text itself. So I often tend to use this if I might be in a header. So let's just go for a brand new header at the top here. Just go and take that. Now by default, this actually turns this on. But what I often do is you can see here that's it's not quite sitting vertically. It's obviously sitting at the top. So then I can do it like that. It's sitting dead in my box. And then if I do want this then to be left aligned, I've then got that sitting nicely. We'll come on to pinning because you can do all sorts with pinning different blocks, duplicating blocks as well. The other thing to note with the text blocks is that you don't want them overlapping other blocks. The reason being is that the text itself then grows into the box that you are using. If we keep this blue line and they're not touching, then as soon as I start to resize my screen, then the text itself starts to shift around, but it's not going to go anywhere here. But if I did have, let's say, a few more enters coming on here, then I put my blue, let's say, I think, oh, it looks nice and neat up here. I've got my button sitting right next to it. The fact I've got this massive gap going on, as soon as I start to resize, smooth it out, resize, you can see that they're overlapping each other. Now, that won't be the case if I close that up, delete off those extra enters, and just keep things looking nice and neat. That red line at the bottom says I can't go any, can't make this like any shorter. So we've got that in there. And then the only other reason that I would make sure with this text block is like just keeping them together because it will often help you out on mobile as well. And the final thing, talking about mobile, is let's say that we've got this looking nice and neat on mobile, although let's just bring this a bit wider. So we've got it looking nice and neat on mobile like so. Then let's say that we come back in the future and we decide, oh, we want less text. So let's just get rid of that. And then we'll just have less text here. We'll make that a bit smaller. Close that up. So it's great. That looks nice and neat. Happy with that. The thing you need to remember on mobile, especially when it comes to the text block, is that it will leave this massive gap. So it's not closing the gap up. So you just have to make sure that you come round, just be methodical with this. Close this up, close this. Doesn't take very long. And then, hey presto, all good. And you're up and running. Loads of different things that you can do and learn around the text block itself. Hope that's been helpful just to understand the key principles behind it.